Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for the third day of the third season of 12 Days of Skylanders. That's a lot of threes in a row, but today's video isn't centered around threes because instead we're doing another top 10 video, and this is going to be yet another blast from the past because about 4 years ago I made a video called the top 10 most scenic Skylanders levels, and this top 10 still holds up. I agree with the choices for the list as well as the audio quality. However, the video being 4 years old is really lackluster in the visual department, so we're going back to this old top 10, and I have rehauled the visuals and I've added background music, so now the video is a lot more prestigious in quality. Now, with it being the top 10 most scenic levels, I am not ranking these levels based on the gameplay design, nor how fun the actual levels themselves are. Instead, the list is based on simply how good the levels look. How scenic are they? So naturally, with the list being based on how beautiful the levels are rather than how well they play, it's going to be an interesting topic to tackle. And with that having been said, let's roll the intro and get straight into the top 10 without further ado. Starting off with number 10, we have Motleyville. Now, what I really love about Motleyville is that you can see it's a scrapyard, and because of that, it's got several hazards and elements that are moving. You know, they're moving simultaneously as you move. They sway, they roll. And, you know, this was all built up from scratch. So the idea that this scrapyard was built and put together is very, very cool. And ultimately, being able to traverse this very detailed artistic scrapyard is very, very fun, mind you. It's just a really unique concept, you know, taking things like scrap and creating art out of it, you know, and all of the moving parts on top of that generally make this a very cinematic level. And as you can see, there's also a lot going on in the background, so overall it's fun to traverse such an artful level, one that you wouldn't expect to be so artful in the fact that it's a scrapyard. So yes, definitely very impressive on a visual level. I just have to say definitely twice to emphasize it right there. But as I move on, our 9th level right here is going to be Quicksilver Vault. Now, I know I was just blaking about how Spice Adventure and Giants don't look as great as other levels, or other games, I should say, even. But Quicksilver Vault is easily the best looking game in Spyro's Adventure, okay? It has a really awesome colour palette. The blue lava and the blue flames ultimately just looks so damn cool. Blue lava just looks cooler than orange lava, and because it's far less generic, it's more memorable because of it. And once again, the infrastructure is really cool here. It really looks like this area is mystical and almost kind of rotting away. It looks like it's thousands upon thousands of years old because the path is breaking apart and sloping down and everything. So above all, for attention to detail in terms of the history of this place, the magical feeling it has, and the amazing use of colour, just makes this a very scenic, fun level to traverse through. And here's the thing, this style, when it comes to the scenery, was so good that they copied it in Superchargers with a Mystic Vault, with the blue magnets and everything, creating a very similar colour palette and atmosphere. So the fact that it originated here, despite the fact that it looks far, far better from Superchargers, is ultimately what gives the Quicksilver Vault for spot on the list, rather than the Mystic Vault from Superchargers, which I've been alluding to up until now. But our next level is going to be the Future of Skylands. Now, what's really interesting about this level is that it has that futuristic-y feeling to it, most certainly. You have all of this futuristic-y infrastructure. You have a very significant space theme into it. A very exciting background with some really contrasting colours to create a very nice pop for the eyes to be engaged by. So this level basically has it all. It has really cool infrastructure that's really detailed. It has really great patterns on the ground, making the ground far from boring. It's very unique in terms of its execution because it's set in the future of all things, and it's got a really visually scenic background. Although unfortunately, is not shot as scenically because you don't really get many wide shots, and in the background itself there isn't really much going on besides moons that can be seen and stuff like that. You know, it's a pretty dull background with the exception of the colour, so that's ultimately what drops this level down a few spots. That, and also Trap Team doesn't have as greater attention to detail as levels from Swap Force and Superchargers do, so let's just put it like this: expect a lot of levels from those games in particular to be appearing on the list. But our next entry is going to be Rampart Ruins. Oh, this incorporates the remnants of old Archean robots so perfectly into the level. You are literally traversing over the remnants of old Archean robots. That's such a unique concept, and because of how these robots are implemented into the level, for attention to detail they add into the backgrounds, and the color palettes they create with the greens and the with the greens even from the plant life, and then for oranges and the yellows from the Archean robots themselves, just creates a very nice color palette, which once again is very visually pleasing for the eyes. And it's just so cool how this level's built up with the Archean robots, and the fact that, you know, you get to see massive ones in the background, or you just have that sense of awe as you walk along an old Archean arm, what was an Archean arm. So yeah, very, very visually impressive level to say the least. And once again, because it comes from Swap Force, for texturing and the attention to detail with that, so long as I learn to speak, is phenomenal, I tell you. But moving on to number 6, I believe, we have the Boney Islands, which once again is an example of a very well detailed level that's phenomenal in terms of the texture and work, because we're going through a frozen fossil festival. So naturally we get to see fossils frozen in time, you know, we get to see the skeletons of old Skylander species, we get to traverse along the back of old skeletons, you know, we see T-Rex looking skeletons. The background itself is just an empty sky with nothing too interesting to it, and that's pretty dull. But just the fact that, you know, you can look off into the distance and see just awesome artifacts as part of the museum is very visually pleasing. And not to mention, you do get some really wide shots when you're going on huge jumps, because this level is really great for huge jumps, mind you. So for wide shots it can present to you, and just the whole scope of all that once again adds a lot of cinematicness to the level. I just really wish that the sky had more going on for it, and the level wasn't in a generic location, because unfortunately ice isn't all of that visually pleasing, especially when it comes to the ground, because it's literally just frozen water. So if this wasn't set in an ice location but still had some museum elements to it, it easily could have elevated itself on this list right here. But moving on, we have at number 5 the Cloud Kingdom. What I really love about this level is that whenever you blow a horn, the camera zooms out and gives you a wide shot of the entire location, and it looks so glorious. We get to see the infrastructure of the Cloud People, and that's very investing, including statues of Lightning Rod, which is really great intertextuality, making the level very exciting. And because it's shrouded in fog and you have no idea what's around the next corner, it makes everything all the more exciting and visually pleasing. So overall, it's a blast to explore this level, just because it looks so great with the blend of colours on top of it all, you know, for lightning pylons giving that blue electricity, and then the yellow platforms on top of it, the wide, very cinematic shots creating a great sense of scope, the amazing infrastructure on display. It's just such a scenic, beautiful level that's very, very well textured. And once again has a colour palette that contrasts each other very nicely for a very eye-pleasing pop. But moving on, we have Telescope Towers, which easily has one of the most chaotic and most interesting and most unique backgrounds of any Skylanders game, because we have these lightning pylons flowing by, we have dolphins with rainbow colours. So with how strange, wacky, weird and unique the backdrops is, it just makes looking at the backgrounds more visually interesting, more memorable, because there's nothing else like it, so there's nothing taking up that memorable spot within your mind you. So I love the uniqueness here, not to mention it's also got some really cool infrastructure to it. The telescopes in particular are very well detailed. Sorry, I kind of stuttered for a moment there. But still, the ground itself has patterns to it which are quite nice to look at, and it's varied as you go along, because, you know, you go from the very dream-esque segments which are very cube-based in their patterns to more bridge-based segments which have, of course, diamonds, and then you have the grass sections which is, well, grassy. Unfortunately, the texture in here isn't as great as other games, because once again we're from Trap Team right here, and if the backdrop didn't have all of the unique and strange backgrounds to it, and just the concept of absolute strangeness, then the background otherwise would have been pretty boring, with not much of a visual pop to it, and a very generic bland colour palette, which would explain the lack of a pop, mind you. But hey, this level does have those really unique backgrounds to it, and that's what elevates it as a very scenic location to go to, so that then you get some some very unique visuals even along the way. But moving on, we have Cloud Breather's Crag. This is the number 3 spot for one main reason. You get to see a fucking dragon throughout the whole level. So damn cool! And then you get to the top of a dragon, where it's got a lot of Japanese type infrastructure atop of it, which is very interesting to see, because I love Japanese infrastructure. It looks so unique and stylized, so of course the level looks stylized and unique because of that. And the background is just always chaotic. Whilst you're on the back of a dragon, you have, of course, enemies raining fire upon you to worry about. Whilst you're just traversing the level normally, you have that huge, massive dragon in the background and all of its glory, because I love me a good dragon, and being able to see that in the background and watching it move, and how the level changes around it is very cool and scenic, so to say. It's very cinematic, getting to drive on the back of a dragon with the attention to detail put into its scales and everything, and all of the wide shots that this level creates. It's gorgeous, okay? It's such a damn good looking level, but not as good looking as the abandoned amusement park. That's right, one Imaginator's level did make the list right here. And the best looking one is the abandoned amusement park, purely because when you look into the background, you can see later parts of the level, you can see later rides, you know, and because of that, it makes it feel more like an amusement park. Because whenever you go to an amusement park, you know, you stand towards the outskirts or even in the middle and you look around, you just see rides everywhere. So that's reflected very well in this level, and not to mention the rides have a very Skylander-esque style to them. I don't know what a style is, that's why I corrected myself. But point is, because of that, invest you further into the world, because you truly believe that this amusement park is part of this world. And so overall, just being able to see the whole park and all of its glory from high points of the park, and, you know, the realistic aspects of that, and the real life into video game translation of that, is just really scenic and very cool on a visual level, especially since I love the atmosphere of amusement parks. They're one of my favourite places to go for entertainment, so that being replicated in such a creative level, because once again this is a unique level when it comes to the visuals and imaginators, something that's sorely lacking in this game, so that definitely increases the level's memorability, and overall it just makes the levels so much fun to walk through, because the more you explore it, the more you get to see of this grand amusement park, or at least this area that was once a grand amusement park. Actually, was it once a grand amusement park? Because it seems like this amusement park never really was all that grand. But hey, Doesn't matter how good of the amusement park it was itself, because we're talking about how visually impressive these levels are here, and the abandoned amusement park is definitely a very visually impressive level. And it's got a lot of 3D assets to it as well, so there's a huge attention to detail there, and it looks phenomenal. But without a doubt, the best looking level in the entire game is the Spellpunk Library. And unfortunately, it is lacking in the background department when it comes to the main 3D element of the level. However, the main 3D elements of the level is very open world-esque. You know, you can tackle books in whatever order you want. You can just explore everything, and so it creates a really big sense of scope and exploration within this library. Very satisfying on a visual level to see all of these books as they're knocked off shelves, and better yet, these books are textured in and of itself. You know, they have covers that are so detailed and just invest you further into a level, as it truly does feel like this ginormous library, and it's so impressive. But the 3D-ness of the level isn't the only thing that's making this a true standout when it comes to the visuals of Skylanders, because once you go into the books themselves, you have 2D backdrops which are all cel shaded, and mwah, that deserves a chef's kiss. I truly can't emphasize with words how glorious these cel shaded graphics look, because it's a whole new style for games delving into, which first of all is very impressive on a programming standpoint, because it's not easy to change styles like this, especially when you jump from 3D to 2D. So the fact that the level was able to do this with a huge lack of lag or frame rate drops is very, very impressive on a crafting standpoint, so credit where credit's due there. But I just love cel shaded graphics. They're my favourite style to mess around with, because it really allows for visuals of the game at hand to really pop and stand out, and that's exactly what this level does. It looks unlike any other Skylanders level, and because of that uniqueness, it increases the level's memorability. And they didn't just shoehorn in the cel shaded graphics, they took full advantage of it, creating the very contrasting, unique colour palettes that you don't see anywhere else in Skylanders, and it's just so visually amazing. But with that all being said and done, I think I've rambled on about how great the Spellpunk Library is, especially on a visual standpoint of all things. So I'm going to be concluding the video here. Again, I apologise about this being one day late, and I also apologise about my stuttering here, but hey, that adds a whole natural flair and progression to the video, at least in my personal opinion. So hopefully you guys enjoy the non-scripted nature of all of this. And we're back with my face after a very nostalgic look back to almost 4 years ago today. It's actually remarkable how little my voice has changed, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed the top 10 topic. Try and say that 5 times fast. And with that having been said and done, let's roll the outro without further ado. Thank you so much for watching through to the end of this video. I deeply appreciate every last one of you, since it's viewers such as yourself which make these videos possible, and I couldn't do it without all of your unwavering support. If you enjoyed what you just saw, you can click on screen now to watch either my most recent video or a video picked out specifically just for you. You can also access the entire playlist for the video you just watched. I'll be seeing you in the next video, but until that moment arises, peace!